Nerderotic.com.
Welcome back to Nerderotic. My name is Gary Beekler, and I come to you from Nerderotic.com. And unfortunately, once again, we need to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 6, The Sound of Thunder, or was it The Sound of Flatulence? I think so, but you can come to your own conclusions once I'm done with the breakdown, because I know a lot of you don't watch the show, and you watch these breakdowns, and I do appreciate that. Of course, I do a live stream after every show airs on Thursday night, but this is for those of you who do not want to sit through those, so let's go. This episode was written by Bo-yeon Kim, whose previous writing work was Star Trek Discovery, the short trek The Brightest Star, and a show called Rain. Co-written by Erica Leopold, who has written Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Short Treks, Brightest Star, and a show called Rain. I'm going to try to make this one as short as possible so I can get to that Orville breakdown, which I'm really looking forward to. What a great episode. And in contrast with this episode, it just makes it look worse. We start out with another voiceover, but this time it's Commander Saru talking about home. We all come from somewhere. And then we see the beginnings of our two superhero origin stories. We see Commander Saru and, of course, Dr. Calder back from the dead, and as expected, he's not feeling that great about it. We find out Commander Saru, instead of deathsticles, he has teeth coming in the back of his neck, and it seems that his fear is being repressed in his nervous system, so he is hyper-evolving right before our very eyes. Again, I suspect we're going to get two superhero stories, and I think Star Trek Discovery with Hugh is overcorrecting again for Hugh's death last season, which they were heavily criticized for by a certain few on Twitter. Michael Burnham checks in on Tilly and Robot Girl, and they are processing the information from the sphere that Tilly describes as a slice of galaxy pie. Very scientific. Again, command material right there. We also get Michael Burnham, Vought, Tyler, and Captain Pike discussing whether the Red Angel is a threat or not. Section 31 is taking the position that it is. Captain Pike is taking the position that it is not. And we are taking the position of being dizzy because in this scene, the camera circles around them. And of course, I can't show the video. You'll just have to take my word for it. You have to take Dramamine for this scene. Even with the Red Angel guiding the Discovery throughout this entire series so far, we have a lot of amazing coincidences. So the sphere, which just happened to die with all this information that Starfleet is going to process, also helped Saru hyper-evolve. And that's when Saru found out the whole balance thing on his planet with the Baul was a lie. Well, the Red Angel appears again, and guess where the Red Angel appears? Saru's home world of Kaminar. We get a quick flashback from the short trek for all those people in Europe who didn't see them. So they arrive at Kalamar, they try to hail the Baul. The Baul responds by scanning their weapon systems, so they decide to stretch General Order 1, which Vought Tyler reminds them that they're going to break, and I don't know why he's even on the bridge. He killed Dr. Calder, and nobody's addressed this yet, but whatever. Saru explains that they could talk to a village priest. Captain Pike suggests that he send Michael Burnham because she's a xenobiologist and the most qualified, but Pike decides that he doesn't want to send Saru because he's going through his space puberty. But of course, it's Michael Burnham who corrects Pike after Saru starts popping off to him that he is really the best choice to bring down because Captain Pike needs to get Michael Burnham's permission. And that's one of the biggest problems with this show and Captain Pike. I want to like Captain Pike, but it seems like he's second captain to Michael Burnham. There's this obsession to keep her in a position of power over him, even though he is her captain. This is a deliberate move in the writer's room, and I've seen this in Doctor Who, and I've seen this in Star Wars, and I've seen this in a lot of other shows, and it is a direct result of the time's up that's going on in Hollywood. Yes, this is agenda over storytelling, and it does hurt narratives. We have a short scene with Stamets, Dr. Calder, and another doctor, which seems to me like another superhero origin story, possibly. Hugh finds out there may be some changes when the other doctor, who I don't know the name of, is telling him that he was rebuilt from his DNA from the ground up, basically, and he is pristine. He finds this out because Dr. Calder's scar is missing. Stamets didn't notice. Then he tells the story of how he got the scar. He went hiking, he fell down 30 meters, but then Dr. Calder corrects him and said 15 meters, meaning his memory is perfect. And we find out that it was a woman doctor who climbed down the hill and saved him, stitched him up with fishing line, and inspired him to go to medical school. In the interest of time, we will get through this one quick. We are almost halfway through the episode. Saru and Michael Burnham beam down there, despite despite General Order 1 and despite Michael Burnham herself saying it would probably shock the Kelpians to see her, they beam down right next to the watchful eye that the Baul have set up. We get a recap again of the short trek. Then we see Saru's sister. Nobody's aged over the last 18 years. We find out that father has been culled. We find out that the Kelpians independently invented tea. Then they ask her about the Red Angel. She says she has not seen it. Then she realizes that they came down for the Red Angel and Saru did not come down to come get her. Serana also lectures Saru on being a coward and fleeing his culling, even though earlier in the episode we heard that the Kelpian race is defined by fear. And this is what defines Star Trek Discovery: bad writing. The Baul show up and she tells them to piss off, which they do. As Burnham and Saru return, it seems that the Baul has found out that there's a Kelpian on the Discovery, and they don't like that. They send 10 of their battle cruisers and confront the Discovery and tell them to return the Kelpian, or they will destroy Saru's village. Saru confronts them, is insubordinate on the bridge, tells them that he survived his Vihari. The Baul say he doesn't even understand what he is. Pike gets mad for his insubordination, tells him to get off the bridge. Then Saru decides to beam down and give himself up. Of course, Michael Burnham figures this out, tries to stop him, but then he says, "Wouldn't you do the same for your own brother?" And she lets him go. The Baul back off, and Saru is captured. Saru is captured and they're running out of time. So what do? They go to Space Google. They go to the Sphere, which somehow cataloged everything they needed to know about the Kelpians, including their evolution. It turns out that the Baul used to be the prey and the Kelpians used to be the predators. How did they find this out? From Space Google. By the way, Miriam is the name of Robot Girl. And this is one of the few things I actually like. The look of Robot Girl is utterly cool. So there, I gave a compliment. Are you happy? So they find out through Space Google that the Baul wiped out the Kelpians halfway through their evolution because there were some Kelpians who were not evolved and some that were, and they kept the balance. Now, why the Baul kept some of the Kelpians alive, I have no idea. Why not just wipe them out completely? But that's the story. We get down to Saru, and it turns out the Baul also beam Serana into what is a repurposed transporter room, and you can see right here the budget must have gone down this episode because we actually get to see a Baul. It looks cool at first. It's a big slimy alien looking creature with red glowing eyes, but then you see it stationary sitting in the middle of a pool, which is normally the transporter pad, and it's so obvious that this was the transporter repurposed that people in my chat noticed it in the live stream. And the Baul monologues, talking with his hands a lot, so he must be Italian, and he tells Saru the story of the evolution, and that Saru is the only Kelpian to survive Vihari in 2,000 years, and nothing will upset the great balance, and it will not go unanswered. The reason he beamed over Saru's sister was because she knows the truth. They will be analyzed and neutralized. Saru sees the threat to his sister. The Baul leaves. Their little battle drones come in. Saru breaks free of his restraints because he's super strong now. We also see that he has teeth where his testicles used to be, and he destroys the battle drones. The Baul decide not to send any more battle drones after Saru has destroyed them, and he is able to make a communicator out of them like he did in the short trek, and of course we have Sarguyver. So we are told 3 separate times, again, we have repeated information in this show, that the Baul were once the prey to the Kelpian predator. We were told in the monologue when we Space Googled, and we were told again when Michael Burnham compares notes with Saru because he is able to contact the Discovery with his little communication device. They cannot locate him, though. His location is shielded. We get more repeated information when Serana says, "It will be very hard to convince people that the balance is a lie." And then Michael Burnham says it's going to be hard to get through thousands of years of conditioning, but they find a way. How? Deus Ex Sphere or Space Google. They're going to use its transmission to speed up the evolution of the Kelpians. How are they going to do this? By using the corresponding sound waves from the sphere's old transmission. Yes, they are going to use sound waves in space. They send the transmission to the communication device that Saru just happened to put together with broken bits of battle drones, and it just happened to fit into a connector that Saru finds in the floor. which just so happens to be a transmission device powerful enough to speed up the evolution of a species. The Vahare is started by the Discovery, and the Ba'ul do not like this, so they target all 4,056 pylons in every village on the planet to destroy all the Kelpians. Pike actually gives a pretty damn good speech here, basically saying you don't want to make an enemy out of Starfleet if you commit genocide. I quite like this a lot. Also, we find out that Saru and Sarana are in a 50-kilometer structure that rises out of the lake, and I need to give credit where credit is due. Anti-Trekker pointed this out. The corresponding tsunami from this thing rising from the lake would destroy the village, which was right on the coast, but it doesn't because they don't think about that stuff. But Star Trek fans do. Pike orders all the pylons targeted, but there's not enough time. And right before the Ba'ul can destroy all the villages, what I thought was the photon torpedo fired from the Discovery turns out to be the Red Angel. Now, Saru sees the Red Angel with his special Kelpian eyes, and we get a much better look. And here you can see it is a female form in some sort of suit. And I can tell you right now, this is Michael Burnham. 100% this is Michael Burnham. Can't show you the video, but if you see the movements of this female form, it certainly looks like her. Turns out the Red Angel was able to deactivate the Ba'ul shields and weapons and saved all the Kelpians. They survived the Vahari, and they all walked out of their village with their testicles in their hands, wondering how the hell that happened. Saru's sister Sarana talks of a new balance. Meanwhile, back on Discovery, Pike and Vok Tyler exchange information. In the spirit of cooperation, they surmise the Red Angel is a someone. Vok Tyler correctly points out that there is somebody in a mechanized suit with advanced technology manipulating civilizations. Captain Pike says he's being a little paranoid, then Vok Tyler reminds him that they just got out of the war that Pike was not in, and some people were still torn apart. Yet another instance of a crew member or a liaison cutting Captain Pike down to size, and they never miss an opportunity to do that, even when they build him up, and we have a couple of good, solid Pike scenes in this show, which is unfortunate. Our final scene is between Michael Burnham and Saru. Saru talks about how happy he is that his sister is going to live a full life. Then, of course, they quote a Greek philosopher, Aeschylus, born 525 BC, "He who learns must suffer, and even in our sleep, pain that cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart." I'd like to change that once again. He who watches Star Trek Discovery must suffer. So let's talk about the good in this episode. It will be brief, but there was good. We'll start out with Doug Jones's Saru. Anytime you center an episode around him, it's going to be better because Doug Jones is the one fully fledged Star Trek character in this garbage pile of a TV show. Yes, his origins are absolutely absurd, and I hope they're past that now, but if you get more Doug Jones, I think you'll get more people on board. Unfortunately, less and less people are watching the show every week, so it's unfortunate. So I hope they somehow keep Doug Jones around after this show is gone, which I predict it will be. The other good thing is Captain Pike. We had 2 good scenes with Captain Pike. Unfortunately, they were immediately undercut by Michael Burnham when she interjected herself into the Saru argument and when she gave Pike permission to accept a phone call from the Ba'ul. Absolutely ridiculous. And then we have Vok Tyler being snarky with him at best. I don't think any captain in the military, and yes, Starfleet is a military organization because they are nation building, no captain would put up with that. If it wasn't for CBS suing Axanar, creating those ridiculous draconian fan film guidelines, and possibly stealing Star Trek Discovery from our good friend Anas Abdeen, creator of the game Tardigrades, I'd actually have sympathy for them. There's been so much turmoil behind the scenes, but they kind of brought it on themselves, and there are rumors abound that it was Alex Kurtzman who caused a lot of this turmoil. So they are forced to retcon their show constantly and having to interject Deus Ex machines to actually do this. That's why we have the Google Sphere, and that's why we have the Red Angel, who is obviously Michael Burnham. It is 100% female, and again, if you can find the video out there, I can't put it up, I wish I could, to show you the movements that we saw. She, and that's what I will call the Red Angel from here on out, is Michael Burnham, because they have been telegraphing that since the beginning of the series. For the 21st episode in a row, Michael Burnham figured out the plot complication. And yes, I'm drawing from Star Trek right there, because this show is for Drekkies. The only thing they do different is Tilly kind of figures out the problem, then Burnham puts it together in the end, and that's what they did with the Vahari and the Kelpians this episode. They have been telegraphing it from the beginning. Like I said, it's ridiculous that it's Michael Burnham, and in jest, I was predicting the Red Angel would be Michael Burnham, but of course, we're dealing with Star Trek Discovery writers, and they waste Pike. We haven't got Spock yet. There was no Spock this episode, and I don't think we're really going to get Spock next episode. I think it's just a flashback Spock, and if you look at IMDb, Spock is only in a couple episodes. This show is ridiculous. Don't waste your money on it. Just watch our reviews. Now I can get to the Orville, which was excellent this week, an all-timer. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Go to nerdrotic.com. Have a great day, and may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.